This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Gates of Hell Chipotle Hot Sauce by Frightday. Bold chipotle flavor blended with habanero peppers for just the right burn. Kissed with garlic and passion fruit. Zero human blood, like none at all. Visit shop.frightday.com before the first batch disappears.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/frightday.
Cryptids and conspiracies.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I think I'm ready for it. I got an outline.
Well, before you start, Kelly,
Oh, no. What are you going to...
I've got a piece of paper that I was supposed to read a couple episodes ago.
Here we go.
It's from a listener named Michael H. Sent in a very great email here, and you
Michael
can, of
H.,
course,
whatever it is that you're going to say, I still appreciate you listening.
contact at frightday.com.
And even if you sided with Byron, he needs that sometimes, so it's okay. I appreciate it.
Subject of this email, smashing electronic
Oh,
things.
Jesus, fuck.
A
Do you know how many
first-person
people have reached out to me about this?
perspective, because you're wrong.
No, but everybody else has reached out saying, I assume you're only reading this because he's saying you're right. So many people have reached out to me saying, no, if you do all of those other things, if you can't unplug it and it's not working,
Next
yes, you
time,
start smashing it.
Print it out, and I'll buy it, Kelly.
Okay, sure,
Yeah,
fine.
So far.
You bet.
Hello. I just listened to episode 309. It was fun. While Kelly is awesome, and I enjoyed the good-natured argument about shutting down electronic equipment on a
Hold on,
warship.
can you back up and read the sentence one more time?
Kelly is awesome?
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that was in there.
And I
Okay.
enjoyed the good-natured argument about shutting down electronic equipment on a warship by flipping a switch versus smashing things. Glad you enjoyed that, because I certainly did not. I thought it was a waste of time. Probably cut a good minute out of it.
Nope.
I served, on a U.S. Navy destroyer as a radar technician and have to side with you on this one. And this, again, is emailed to me.
Oh.
It is much easier to simply pull a plug. Big, complex electronic systems are moving parts in a large physical footprint that can't be deactivated by swinging a hammer. Or I guess eventually it could work, but it would take a long time.
Well, yes, I agree. See,
Yeah.
I agree with you,
Yes.
sir.
Uh-huh.
That sir is correct. The problem was they had tried all the other things and it wasn't working, so they did
Nah,
have
I
to
don't
swing a
believe
hammer
it
for a
for a
very long
second.
time.
Not for
and
one
we're
second.
back to Kelly being right.
Damaging things would degrade the system, but not deactivate it. Even back in the 1940s, an electromagnetic system like the one described by Kelly on the USS Eldridge would have some sort of emergency cutoff switch as a safety feature.
This wasn't a safe experiment, sir. It wasn't above
Byron
board.
1, Kelly 0.
Yeah, that's fine. You know what? Here's the thing about that. I still disagree with him, but I'll take it from him a lot more than you because he actually knows what he's fucking talking
Yeah,
about.
but you should listen to me because I did too.
You didn't.
For your reference, I served on this ship. And then he sent a Wikipedia link to the USS Sampson, DDG-10.
Do we know his years of service?
I don't think we need to further
Well, no, I would be interested in talking
trying to
to him.
legitimize this gentleman here, Alan. And he also...
Oh, you don't want to legitimize Alan. I see what you're saying.
Well, I'm confused. Wrote the email.
His middle name is probably Alan. He probably
Alan.
goes by Alan.
All right.
Yeah.
Also left a link for the radar that Alan worked on here, AN-SPG-51.
So all jokes aside, I would love to talk to him about the radar described
That could be interesting.
in this because clearly I don't know about it and I'm just reading a lot about
I
it.
might
So
send you an email in return.
he gets an investigator's patch, doesn't he?
Oh, I would say for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sending
Yeah,
this
that's super
detailed
helpful.
letter in. Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
that.
That's it. Keep up the good work. Love your show. Alan, appreciate you so
I
much.
love you too. Thank you very much.
It's very kind.
It's
Yeah.
very kind. And you have a position of experience that I respect. I do want to clarify that I agree there should be a cutoff switch. This was a very dangerous experiment, and they
Yeah.
did things wrong.
Slowly unscrew a panel and pull one cord out in the same time.
I don't think you
takes a
understand.
smash through steel.
Don't think you understand the differences about this and what was going on.
And I think if you... I'm not going to get into this
Should
again.
we should do it
We
again.
should relitigate this, huh?
I love litigating.
Absolutely not. Kelly.
Do you know I wanted to be a lawyer for a long time because of that?
Because of what?
I was really liked arguing. You know what I now tell students when they tell me, I'm really good at arguing, I want to be a lawyer.
Yeah, right.
You know what I say?
What do you say?
Yeah, you don't get to argue, all you do is write.
But you like writing now.
I do like writing now, too. Still like arguing. Working on that. Okay, so when we last left off, Duncan and Preston had joined forces. It was only a matter of time before Duncan and Preston would also join forces with Al Bielek. But in the meantime, we've got a small crew of individuals that have been uncovered thanks to a homeless man living in an abandoned building.
It's kind of ragtag.
Some psychics.
Uh-huh.
It's a bit of a suicide squad, you know?
I saw some video of these psychics. Did they really need to get fully naked and lay on the floor to get into that trance?
We're going to talk about that a lot.
Can't wait.
We're now in July 1986, and Preston and Duncan and some others who were formerly involved with this project that they're just kind of starting to put the pieces together with, they feel like they've got enough information, and they've been poking around and they're a little nervous. They can tell they're reaching some places that are perhaps hot buttons. Preston has a plan. Preston says, you know, I think we need to go public, because I think if we go public, it's going to protect us a bit. So I want you to imagine like a, I don't know, a really poor, much more unhealthy and unfit version of the Lone Gunman.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, and he says, here's my plan, guys, crew. I'm going to go to the U.S. Psychotronics Association conference. And there, I'm going to get up and I'm going to talk about what we found. I'm going to be honest that we don't know the whole story, but I got to get these pieces out there. Sure enough, it worked because no one got killed.
Oh.
People were buzzing about it.
Oh, he got a chance to wear his one button-up shirt.
I think so, yes. They also gained access to a really important inroad here, Byron. A gentleman whose name I don't know, but who Preston gives the pseudonym of Lenny. Turns out that Lenny is the nephew of a prominent senator in the Southwest, and that Lenny actually works for his uncle as well. So Lenny was really interested in what he heard. Preston started passing him information, which was then passed to the senator. And the senator, first quietly and then not so quietly, was looking into it and found that, yeah, even though Camp Hero was decommissioned in 1969, the Air Force personnel continued working there. And so, you know, trying to follow the money, the senator looks and can't figure out where the funding's actually coming from. So he gets on a plane and he goes to the base. He's not allowed on the base.
Oh, no.
And in fact, at that point, he went and visited Preston. He said, okay, Preston, you got to keep quiet.
Did you know about the U.S. Psychotronics Association?
No, actually, do you want to tell me a bit about it? Should we join it?
I don't know. It's a non-profit 501c3 organization
How
founded...
did they get 501c3 status?
No
we
idea.
clearly need to apply for 501c3
I
status.
guess so. Founded in 1975 to serve as a focal point for scientific and technological exploration in the universe of esoteric... Oh, I hate when anything...
Esotericism?
Yeah, well, no, it's esoteric, spiritual, and psychic arts in the United States of America. It's a word that when I read it, I just close my computer.
Okay, but for real, here's the thing. Like,
yeah.
yes,
I
it sounds
guess unless
laughable.
I'm talking about Satanism, of course.
Like, what's the
you know.
difference between that and Catholicism or
Well, it's all-
Mormonism
I
or
don't
whatever?
like much of it.
Yeah.
So, you
I
know.
bet they don't get church treatment. They're 501c3, but they're not church.
The USPA has been hosting annual conferences for its members since its formation and has featured countless individuals with cutting-edge viewpoints, research, and theories to share, allowing any interested persons to openly discuss their work. So, great place for Preston to be doing this.
Yep. So the senator visits Preston and says, here's the deal. You can't talk about this anymore. If I'm going to get anywhere with my investigation, only way that's going to happen is under the radar. And if you're blabbing about it, we're not going to get anywhere. And in fact, this is why Preston waited so much longer to publish his book rather than publishing it in 87. He waited until Lenny's uncle was all done.
Not just because it was a bad book that needed to be written a lot of times.
No, I don't think that was it. I don't think that was
You
it at all.
read this book.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing that I will defend about the book. There are some actual papers in here that appear to be official government documents that he says he found on the abandoned base.
And of course, we're talking about the Montauk Project Experiments in Time.
Yes, the number one.
From 1992.
The first one,
Yeah.
yes. Meanwhile, Preston's still on this personal mission. He can't be quite as vocal about it, but he's still really trying to figure out what happened because he only has a couple little breadcrumbs. He's trying to unpack these memories, through regression, through hypnosis, doesn't really work well.
Yeah, here at Frightday, our stance on regression hypnosis therapy is...
It's questionable.
yes.
Yeah, don't spend a bunch of money
Because
on
we
that one.
did a whole episode about it.
To be honest, here's my 2 cents. I'm very much a believer in like the placebo effect, in like mind over matter, blah, blah, blah. Not from some supernatural perspective, but I just think the brain's fucking amazing and we don't even know all the things that it does. I think that if you believe regression's working, your brain might actually access things that it didn't before because of that, or
Michelle says, and then we get in trouble.
it might manifest things that weren't really there.
Creates lies like the McPherson preschool. I think that's right.
McPherson tapes, is that what you're trying to say?
No,
Like
that's what I'm
McPherson
getting
tapes.
mixed up with.
Well, I don't know. You just mix
Found
those
footage
up.
film or a
McPherson mix.
preschool where there's supposedly tunnels that led children to be sexually abused by Satan worshippers.
And
so-
it was completely false.
Yeah, it was. Episode 60, we covered the Ethan Hawke film Regression. And then in episode 113, we talked alien abduction regression hypnosis, as well as the film Get Out.
Wow, that was a doozy,
It was.
man.
That was a heck of one.
Well, it didn't work for Preston. He's now formally recognizing that there's his normal time track and the other time track that he's just got breadcrumbs about. Okay. He's trying to figure out what it could be. He does know that at least some of what happened in this alternate time track had to do with his primary place of employment.
Radio Shack.
No.
Blockbuster?
So AIL, which was the defense contractor, he calls it BJM in his book.
Oh, we've covered that.
Right, because it's one letter later for each of those. But he starts walking around the plant, talking to different people, trying to gather information, right? He's the weird water cooler guy. So he's wandering around and going on his gut feelings of like areas in the plant that make him feel uncomfortable and nervous.
Yeah.
And there's one room in particular that was really bothering him. In fact, to quote him, my innards would just churn when I would come to a certain room.
Like a man who ate an old sandwich from Wawa for lunch.
Could be.
Yeah.
There was something in that room that was very disturbing to me. Tried to investigate it, but he rang the doorbell on the room, couldn't get in. It was top secret, high security area. Only 10 people on the whole plant could get in, and he wasn't one of them.
Wait, did someone come when he rang the doorbell?
That's actually a really good question. I don't think so. I think he was just told, like, get the fuck out. This is for you, buddy.
Okay.
Okay? He asked around if anybody knew about the room. Basically, no one did. Finally, he was able to get to 2 people who said they'd been in there, but they said they couldn't tell him anything. And one of them turned him into security. He had to kind of like cool his jets.
Are you surprised? Some big fucking guy just wandering around asking
mean, he
questions
works there.
with that voice?
It's a good voice.
No,
He works there.
I know.
A year later, because he's been laying low,
Yeah.
the room in question has been totally cleared out.
Was it just a closet?
Now listen to this. This is great. So anybody can walk in and out now, and he can see where equipment had been and was clearly gone. Because he's an electronics nerd, he could see like where coil structures were. He saw, okay, there had to have been a console in this place. Huge power line that was still coming into the room, but obviously wasn't being used. Had that stomach churning again, right? And looks at the back of the room, and there's an elevator. So he goes to the elevator. Inside the elevator, there are 2 buttons. Main floor, subfloor. Well, he's on the main floor, so he presses the subfloor button. Elevator starts going down,
You kind
down.
of talking to the mic if you're
Down.
going to do the quiet voice.
How am I not talking to the mic?
Just tilt it a little bit, just a little. Nope, this way. It's
funny.
angled away from your mouth. There we go.
So he's going down and down, and then a voice comes on in the elevator and asks him to punch in the proper code numbers on a keypad. He didn't have a code.
42069.
Beeping goes off. Security guards come. He's in trouble again.
And they're still letting this fucking guy work there?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was pushing his luck.
Yeah,
at this
which
point.
department was he in again?
Electrical engineering of some sorts.
Okay, and he's wandering.
Phil
around-
Spector.
Come on.
I don't know.
He doesn't.
I think he did work for Phil Spector.
No, he didn't.
You're supposed to get to the bottom of
If
that.
he did work for Phil Spector, then he was one of hundreds of people.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But don't you think it makes sense, especially back in those days? There's this weird genius who's able to do all these cool things. No need to give him credit for anything because look at that dude.
What I hear you telling me is that Preston Nichols is a bit of a Forrest Gump. He's just like in the background of all these pictures.
I actually think he's a slightly more malevolent Forrest Gump, yeah.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
Definitely
no.
can't run.
Larry Levine is the recording engineer.
Adam's dad?
No.
Granddad.
This guy helped develop the Wall of Sound with Phil Spector, not Preston Nichols.
Well, but dig some deeper. See if you can find
I don't
Preston
want to
involved.
dig any deeper.
Just dig,
I'm
okay?
not doing that.
Well, this experience going in that subfloor elevator triggers a little bit more memory, and he starts noticing little things. Like suddenly he'll see that he has a Band-Aid on his hand, and he won't know
Now he's Neo for some reason?
where the Band-Aid came from. I mean, yeah, he is Neo. That's
He's
exactly
Neo.
what we're getting at.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I don't want Preston to be Neo.
And slowly, memories come back. You do realize that, like, large chunks of those stories have
I
been
know,
based
they're
on
all
this
kind of
crazy
based
shit.
on this concept. But
Yeah.
It's just sad when you realize that Neo was actually Preston Nichols.
He starts to remember that actually the reason he keeps hurting his hands is in this alternate timeline, he's being asked to move this big piece of equipment that nobody else can move because if they go near it, it makes them cuckoo-ca-choo. But it doesn't bother him, but nobody will help him move it. And so he keeps like banging up his hands moving this, but it's in the alternate timeline. And so he ends up with these injuries on his hands and Band-Aids. And he's like, I don't remember putting Band-Aids there. So he was like going and talking to the nurse at the plant and saying, did I come here for a Band-Aid? No?
He needs to be fired.
Well, okay. Finally, he starts piecing things together and his brain goes all the way back to 1978. All right. And this was the beginning. He was sitting on his workbench one day and he smelled burning transformers all of a sudden. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. The rest of the day continued. It was pretty normal. And then 4 o'clock the afternoon, the whole plant started to smell like really bad smoke from burning transformers.
He's having a stroke.
And he goes, that's funny. Smelled that at 9 o'clock this morning. And it occurred to him that that event hadn't happened at the time he'd thought. You can't burn up a transformer and then like suddenly it's going to wait 7 hours before it.
Could he hold both of his arms in front of himself?
Lots of little things happen like that. And he is remembering enough of them that a full picture is starting to emerge. While that picture's emerging, people are getting pissed. Security visits him. Why are you asking about Band-Aids, Mr. Nichols?
And he just leans back as bullets go past him.
I feel like that'd be a
slow motion.
great title for a memoir, or like, I feel like, why are you asking about Band-Aids, Mr. Nichols?
I don't like it.
Can we do a t-shirt? I feel like that'd be a good t-shirt.
I don't think so.
Why are you asking about Band-Aids, Mr. Nichols?
Someone draw it up and maybe we'll make a t-shirt.
I love the idea.
You know, I'm really buying this whole thing.
Yeah?
No. I'm not, Kelly. When does he get a pair of wraparound Oakleys?
Oh no, that was
Does he
total,
get a duster?
That was a Hollywoodization of the story. No dusters. Mostly gloves. He likes to wear black gloves.
Really?
Yeah, that video that I was having you listen to, he's wearing these black gloves the whole time. I don't know if he's like fried his hands from all the electronic stuff he's done.
Yeah.
Or if he's damaged his hands so badly from moving this equipment so many times that now he doesn't want to show his hands. I'm not really sure. Anyhow, as he's piecing together these memories, one day he seems overwhelmingly compelled to go into the basement of the AIL building in Melville, which was super high security. He had no clearance, but he just pretended to know what he was doing and walked in.
Someone needs to call HR because...
Well, they didn't. He gave his badge from the lesser security area, and the guy had a badge with his name on it. He'd had a hunch, and it worked, Byron, because it turns out he was supposed to be there. He just was supposed to be there as alternate timeline Preston, not main timeline Preston. So they assume when Preston comes in, there you go. He follows his gut in terms of what direction to go once he's inside this basement, winds through these hallways, ends up in an office. Large desk. Nameplate on the desk, Preston B. Nichols.
Stop.
Assistant Project Director.
Shut your mouth.
And now he knows, okay, I am an Assistant Project Director of something big. So big that my brain's being wiped to maintain its secrecy. And Preston's life changed forever.
This is like if Neo was played by...
Chris Farley.
Well, that But also Rainn Wilson in The Office.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he memorizes everything in there, starts really being able to piece things together. He knows people are going to figure him out. He spends 6 hours in this office digging as much info as he can. All right. A guy wants to talk to him suddenly because people are noticing. All right, well, wait, he's not really supposed to be here right now.
But who's supposed to be? Okay, so he's off
like,
hours.
right.
Yeah, this
Right.
is again the Fight Club.
Yep.
The Tyler Durden.
It is. It totally is. And this guy, Mr. Roberts, fictitious name. He wants to make sure we know
Yeah,
that it
of
was
course.
a fictitious name,
Yeah.
okay? Came out of an office that said project director, looked at him and said, "What do you want me to come in here for?" To get to my other desk? Like I said, you don't have any other desk here. He pointed to the office where his desk had been. He entered the room with the project director, and suddenly the desk was gone. Literally, in a very brief period of time, they had realized what was going on, taken the desk, and moved it.
It would just make more sense if he's stuck with like one weird fucked up
Okay, but
story.
doesn't that sometimes make you think that, like, okay, this is what it makes me think.
He's mixing like dimensional and also like manipulation in reality.
Well, I mean, this is where at some point we are going to need to talk quantum mechanics. I think it'll be next week, but
I hope not.
that's really what it all tethers back to.
I don't want to go out with that.
We're not going out with that, but it's going to be mid. We're going to have to. Okay.
But you understand my frustration here, though. There is one thing to be like, oh, he's living two lives. And also, at the same time, there's like a desk that can blink in and out of a dimension.
Oh, no, it was like physically moved. Like he was gone
Someone
for
like,
like
shuffled,
15 minutes.
Someone shuffled it out of there.
Yeah, because they knew he was not supposed to be in there. That's why Mr. Roberts kind of came to distract
But they
him.
like moved his desk and all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my sense was it was like a desk and file cabinets. Like you just
I'm just
freaking
come on.
shimmy it out. You got a lot of staff at a place like this.
I guess, but
All right.
would have been easier just to tell him to leave. Right?
So this is what he remembers. He began constructing a Delta T antenna on the roof of his laboratory. And one day he was sitting on that roof, connecting all the loops together into the relay boxes, which relay the signals from the antenna downstairs to the lab, held the wires together. What's that?
This is a song called Delta T Antenna by Gallery
What?
Schaulaltschutz. It's on an album about the Montauk Project. Pretty cool.
We need to interview that musician or musicians.
Pardon the interruption.
So he's doing that work, soldering. That's what you say, right? It's soldering?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Okay. It looks like solder, and that's always thrown me.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
I see what you're
soldering.
saying. But this Delta T thing, it's not.
No. He's working on the Delta T antenna, doing all this soldering, but as he's holding all the wires together to connect them, the time functions started literally jostling things loose in his brain. And the more soldering he did, the more he remembered, and suddenly it was all there. And he knew that the Delta T antenna was actually storing up time flux waves as he was connecting it together, and it kept pushing his mind just bit by bit by bit, almost bending time because it had such concentrated time flux waves.
And time flux waves, of course, unlock memories.
Yeah.
I can tell that you don't even really.
No, I do. I
like-
do believe that.
Do you?
No.
Okay.
The antenna helped him break through, and he suddenly had his memory. He's pretty certain that the Delta T antenna theory is correct.
This is his like Frankenstein moment.
Yeah, kind of.
All right.
Kind of. By early June, he had remembered everything, and it was very clear that by that point he was of no use to AIL anymore because in July he was laid off.
Wait, why was he on the first line to go?
Yeah, but listen to this. After he was laid off, all of his close circle, like his orbit within the company, they were also laid
Yeah,
off.
that sounds like a bunch of slackers, honestly. I haven't heard a dang thing about them doing work. All these guys do is drink water and snoop
Drink water.
at the water cooler.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that that's fair, but this is where Preston finds himself in June of 1990, July of 1990, I guess. It wouldn't be long before he and Al connected, and, you know, the whole story kind of came full circle. Montauk, the place that brought all of these gentlemen together, turns out It was a place where really horrible experiments were happening. As much as I don't want to like overdo a discussion of it, I think we do need to talk a little bit about the Montauk boys.
Is this a content warning?
No, not yet. I think we're okay for a while.
Okay.
So in the 70s and a little bit into the 80s, as the story goes, there were countless disappearances on Long Island and in surrounding areas, but focused on Long Island. A lot of these people were runaway teenage guys. Now, we all know that you look at marginalized populations like runaways, sex workers, and there's plenty of history to show that illegal activities from the most evil segments of our society have ample opportunity to take advantage of those marginalized populations because there's less to notice. It's easier to get away with things when you are causing damage to people who are already cared about less than the average member of society. It's a real sick, gross, sad thing about our society.
Yeah. These weren't milk carton kids.
No, these were kids who would never end up on a milk carton. You know, there were a lot of teenage kids that would run away, but rather than running away and, you know, whatever it is that they're going to do, they were ending up, according to Preston and Al, and Duncan, they were ending up in this really scary experiment that was super controversial. It was an extension of what we talked about last time with the orgone thing and waves and this idea of like orgone energy and cosmic energy and waves. And some of it is brain waves that's very scientific. Other pieces of it are being blended with stuff that is very pseudoscientific.
Like sexuality.
A lot of sexuality, okay? I will say this is one of the parts of the story I find most believable because if you look at some of the things our government's been involved in, they certainly don't shy away from weirdness. Like they've definitely done remote viewing experiments and research. They've definitely put a lot of money into psychic research, and that's basically what this was.
Well, and a lot of mind control too.
Yep, and they also have done horribly evil things like syphilis experiments.
Tuskegee Airmen.
Yep, and MK Ultra. So it doesn't take a lot for me to believe that they were kidnapping marginalized young men off the street and using them in almost Nazi-like experiments.
Probably involving real
Yeah.
paperclip Nazis.
Oh, probably, yes. Very
Yeah.
good point. So that part I don't want to say that I 100% am certain of that, but there's enough evidence and there's enough precedent. This isn't a leap of faith for me to believe this part. Now, the way in which Al and Preston present this story is a little bit more confusing. And unfortunately, there are people who claim to have been Montauk boys themselves and come forward and speak every now and again. But typically, they end up in publications like the New York Post or really weird YouTube videos. Or if they rise to the top of the fame tunnel,
Self-published documentaries.
they become Stewart Swerdlow.
Ah, yes.
Stewart Swerdlow was, I guess, probably, other than Duncan, the most well-known Montauk boy. Byron, I know when we started this journey together, you had some very visceral negative reactions to Mr. Swerdlow.
Yeah, he gave me the EBGBs and the creeps. I watched the Montauk Chronicles on YouTube.
It didn't just make you sad for him?
No.
Yeah.
That guy, no. Well,
Okay.
I mean, I justified my visceral ick feeling by doing a little bit of extra research on him and his wife. He's an author. He's been writing a lot of stuff. But one of the books that really caught my eye was The True Reality of Sexuality, which he's got some very interesting ideas about that, which, I mean, again, I think you are getting into this, that he is very likely a victim of childhood sexual abuse.
I think unquestionably. And a lot of the stuff that's out there about him is very woo-woo.
He's Q-woo as well.
Yeah.
Him and his wife are very into the QAnon conspiracy theory.
Yeah, which honestly is probably one of the more grounded things they've believed in the last couple of decades. But he was born in Long Island in the 50s, in the late 50s. Okay, so he was right around the correct age. Furthermore, he had remembers having encounters with alien beings from a very early age. Now, here's something that we've never gotten into at a heavy level, Byron, but you know me, I do not discount the possibility of alien abductions. There are some psychiatric theories that posit alien abductions as one of the mental defense mechanism cover memories for sexual abuse.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's part of our cultural awareness, this idea of alien abductions. And I think the idea is young, fragile minds
Can't handle
can
it.
wrap their head around that more easily than the idea of being horrifically abused by someone they trust, right? So I'm not saying that he wasn't abducted by aliens, but
Also,
I'm saying
every anal probe case doesn't mean that you were sexually abused.
No. But given the other variables with Stewart, I think that could be the case with him. Listening to him tell his story in the Montauk Chronicles actually made me very sad. He clearly had a really traumatic childhood, was very unhappy. He thinks that he was taken to military bases regularly, even as a child. So he feels like he was abducted by aliens and also abducted by military personnel, experiments. He thinks that beyond being just a Montauk boy, he was part of a Montauk genetic experiment.
Okay.
According to what he says he's uncovered, only 1% of the people in that genetic experiment program survived. As a result of that experimentation,
He's the 1%.
I mean, there were thousands, so there were others, but he was one of those. And he emerged from it with genetically altered abilities, primarily psychic abilities. And so he became like a leveled up Montauk boy. He became a programmer of the other Montauk boys. According to his story, part of this programming, significant part of this programming, is the type of thing you hear about with military training and whatever, like you break somebody's psyche down completely and then rebuild them. Really horrible abuse, some sexual, some otherwise. But he apparently moved from becoming abused to almost like a robotic soldier programmed to perform the abuse in order to create a clean slate of psychic abilities for these Montauk boys that they could then experiment on.
Oh, I didn't know that he was forced to participate.
Yeah.
According to what he believes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
And, you know, he telling the stories, he's very,
Do you really got to put chapstick on right now?
yeah, my lips hurt really, really bad. I'm sorry.
Just talking, I guess. Okay.
It's sad to listen to him tell those stories because, you know, he's clearly a very traumatized human being. He talks about the experiences as a programmer with an attempt to be really removed and cold about them because he says that's what they were trained to do. And they weren't allowed to form any close connections because then obviously programmers would stop hurting the people they were programming if they formed any close connections. So they were really trained to be sociopathic almost.
You know that he's a Grand Prior for the Knights Templar?
Can you just declare yourself that?
I have no idea.
Can you put that on my bio?
Hey, why not?
I actually don't think I can do that. I think you have to be a boy. It's not fair.
He's a priest of the Chaldean Church of East Brazil.
Tell me what that is. That seems like something you should know.
No idea. Sounds like a cult, though.
Oh. Stewart has confirmed Al's story. He said Al was the psychic program manager, and in 1983, which is the event this has all been leading up to, Stewart really started losing his mind. When everything at Camp Hero with Project Montauk came to a head in 1983, Stewart Swerdlow basically crumbled. Like all of the programming that had been built up in him kind of fell apart, almost as though the place was controlling him. And then when the place fell apart, there was nothing controlling him and he kind of had to like build himself up again.
He was there for 13 years.
Yeah. And since that point, he's been trying to regain his identity. Byron, I know you're going to mention this. He did go to federal prison for a while.
I actually didn't know that.
Oh, really? I thought
What-
that would
what
be
did
the
he go to jail
first thing.
for?
Well, he went to jail because he was trying to regain his lost memories and figure out who he was, and the government didn't want him to speak about his past.
What did he really do? You don't know, do you?
I think it was something financial.
I mean, honestly, I didn't try terribly hard to find this information, but it is on a message board, and it says, Stewart Swerdlow admitted bank fraud. That's all. And then it links me to a GeoCities website.
That's down?
It is down. I could probably figure out a Wayback Machine way to do it, but I don't want to.
Yeah, it was something financial, but he claims it was another attempt to keep him in the dark and to make sure that he didn't shed any additional light on this for anyone else either. So what exactly went on other than the horrible abuse of children? To what end were these children being abused?
Did they have to sit down
What do you mean?
in a chair?
They did.
Okay.
And this is why we have engineering weirdos like Preston and Al. They were apparently essential in creating the chair. And the chair is simply a device. You'll hear Preston Nichols describe it over and over again as a mind amplifier. So if you need a little refresh, go back to last episode, or was it 2 episodes ago when we talked about waves?
I think that might
Alpha,
have,
beta, gamma.
that might have been last episode.
So you need to go back to that episode, refresh yourself about the waves. And the idea was Preston, along with some other engineers, and maybe Al helped, that's a little up for debate, created this device that if you had a person sitting in the chair with very powerful psychic ability who could control those waves to a certain degree, plus this amplifying electronic mechanism, you could do completely different things. And at first, they didn't really know what they were going to be able to accomplish. There were discussions about, again, like weather control and things like this, okay? It got much heavier than that. We could probably do 12 more episodes just talking specifically about the claims regarding what transpired in that chair, but we're going to do a quick tour of that tonight. According to Nichols and Swerdlow and Bielik, the best psychics were able to time travel. So they could literally manifest themselves into a different time using the amplifying mechanisms of the Montauk chair. Now, in the show notes of this episode at Frightday.com, we're going to have some drawings with a whole lot of technical specs that Preston provided about this thing. Somebody somewhere, I'm sure, will be able to tell me whether there's anything to that, but it is definitely beyond my ability to understand. Duncan, our fellow who, if you remember, jumped back in time. There's a whole timeline for Duncan that we really don't have the space to get into, but he also was reborn into a different body.
Wait, Duncan was reborn into a different body? Like went back to the 80s.
Yeah, he went back to the 80s,
Did
lived
a bunch
here
of
for a while,
cocaine, wore sunglasses.
worked at Montauk,
Yeah.
and then supposedly was like rebooted into a different body that was born in like maybe the 60s.
But why?
Because he couldn't die, because his efforts at Montauk base were tied to this huge time rift that happened on August 12th, 1983. And so for the same reason they had to keep Al alive and von Neumann alive, they also had to keep Duncan alive.
Oh, okay.
One of the most controversial projects that supposedly happened via the Montauk chair was a secret expedition to...
Where would they go? Des Moines.
Oh, I wish. That'd be really cool.
Montauk?
Starts with an M.
Manhattan.
Think further.
Mexico?
Way further.
Mars.
Yes!
All right.
You hot dog, Byron. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Okay.
All right.
So they didn't go to Mars.
They did go to Mars.
Probably didn't.
They did a secret expedition there.
We talking? I hate secret space program.
You don't like secret space?
I
You don't like
hate
the
it.
off-world things?
I hate those.
I think you hate them because I think the first time you heard a real human being we were talking with mention them was Laura.
Yeah.
And I think you'll hate them forever because of
Well,
that.
it's not just because of Laura.
Well, are you ready for
There's
me
a-
to tell the story about Mars or not?
There's an industry of nonsense behind that concept.
According to Nichols, this was actually one of the first things they did when they figured out the chair could be used in that manner. Because the government believed that an ancient civilization had built Egyptian-style pyramids containing an old technology that would be new technology for us, old technology for aliens on the red planet. Mars pyramids, however, when they got there, were sealed shut, and if they wanted to get inside, their best bet was to warp directly into them and travel underground.
Because, of course, the handprint readers only have 4 fingers.
So the researchers created a portal into an ancient catacombs beneath Mars's surface. From there, they could supposedly access the ancient tombs. And in his first book...
This was in Preston's book.
Well, in his first book, Preston does not reveal what was discovered there. But in his second book, Montauk Revisited...
Which you also read.
Yep. He tells us a really interesting story from this expedition. He starts giving us a bit more info. A researcher from the Montauk Project, he calls Stan... was sent to retrieve the blood of Christ and then to assassinate Jesus. So separate from the Mars expedition, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stan time traveled to the day before the crucifixion, approached Jesus, freely gave a vial of his blood, told Stan he would not be able to kill him. After bringing the blood back to Montauk, Stan went to Mars. On Mars, he saw a Christ-like figure wearing robes on a nearby ridge and said the person looked like Duncan Cameron. Duncan Cameron, dressed as Christ, on a ridge in Mars.
Stop. Just stop.
Nope, this is important, Byron. I need you to stay with me. I need you to suspend disbelief for a little bit, okay?
Okay, I'll do my best.
Nichols admits this could be hard to swallow for some people,
Oh, you think?
especially religious folks. But is it really that hard to swallow?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
I feel like, Byron, you're probably having less trouble with the Jesus part than you are with the transport to Mars part.
It's all pretty bad for me. Not a big fan of much of it.
Well,
Did he end up assassinating Jesus after he got the blood of Christ?
no, this is a part where I have to be careful because Nichols makes some claims about science that I don't want to support, but I'm going to tell you what he said. Supposedly there aren't pyramids on Mars, so NASA says, but
For the first time, Earth has received pictures, good pictures, of Mars taken from ground level, if ground is the word up there.
Touchdown, we have touchdown.
Mission control as Viking 1 touchdown on Mars.
Camera 1's on. We're looking good.
And so did the very first picture from Mars, 240 million miles away.
in the 1970s, NASA sent a Viking orbiter, and there are some photographs that show the Cydonia region, and we all know, thanks to our buddy Richard Hoagland, about the Cydonia region. It is up for debate whether those photographs reveal something actually Sphinx-like or whether that's just like a,
Shadow of a rock?
Virgin Mary and a piece of toast type of
I
deal.
feel like you've talked about this before, like
It's
way
hard-
back in the day.
It's really hard for me to let go of this one because, Byron, in my adult life, the first time I ever had access to like a celebrity scientist, I was at a conference and out for drinks after dinner with the head Egyptologist of the dig at Giza. Okay?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And literally in my like 20 or 30 minutes that I have to chat with this guy.
You decided to talk about the faces on Mars?
Yes.
Really?
100%.
Oh, Callie, how
No,
embarrassing.
100%. 100%.
How embarrassing.
I mean, he was really kind about it, but I also
It
think
wasn't so dangerous back then.
well, no, I mean, this was 2009, 2007.
Yeah, it was a different time, though, where conspiracy theorists
That's
weren't...
true. Conspiracies weren't cute.
I don't know if you've looked at this recently.
It looks so much like a face on
No,
Mars.
when you look at it from a real angle with fully lit, it doesn't look like that.
It does to me.
Yeah, okay.
He humored me. It might have been because I was much younger then, and I'm pretty sure he really liked young women, but
Makes sense.
no. He was actually very nice. He was very kind and did not shame me at all. And it actually wasn't him that was weird. It was a different physicist that was like 90 years old that tried to follow me to my room, but
Ugh,
it's a different
all right,
story.
Jeez, okay.
So I have had real discussions about the face on Mars. He didn't discount it. He said that he hadn't seen evidence that would prove it to him, but that he did find the photos intriguing. Okay? According to Nichols, they're far more than intriguing. They're real. These people visited the pyramids. I was going to go a little bit further with this whole idea.
Of astral projection on Mars?
But it's not, here's the thing, it's like not even astral projection, because if I understand correctly, Byron, astral projection does not include a physical presence somewhere. It's just a spiritual presence somewhere, right?
Yeah. This is warping.
Yeah, like no, they're actually going there.
Does that mean
Exploring.
it's more or less does that make more or less sense?
It depends on what kind of theoretical science you believe, right?
Yeah. Are they suited up? Do they have oxygen tanks on? Is this like in Willy Wonka where the little
not
boy gets turned
necessarily.
into particles and ends up in the TV?
I do love that story though.
Yeah, that one I think freaked me out more than any of the other ones.
Well, here's what I say. And this is where I think we do need to talk about
Is
quantum
Willy
mechanics.
Wonka a horror film?
Yeah, it kind of is. Most
Oh my
Roald Dahl
gosh.
stories are horror.
Yeah.
Like you think about James and the Giant Peach,
Uh-huh.
scary shit. Matilda,
Remember
the witches,
Yeah.
legit.
Guntar drowns in chocolate. Another little girl gets burnt in a stinky
'Cause
egg
if-
bin.
Think about it. You could make a version of that was very R-rated.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Tim Burton had a shot at it and didn't quite do it.
I liked it.
I didn't see it.
I guess it's important to give the context that the Montauk chair supposedly became operational in 1974 and then was upgraded in 76.
More cushioning.
But the time travel, quote unquote, successful experiments didn't begin until 79. The Delta T antenna, which again was what helped trigger Preston to remember these things, that was installed and began running in 80. And so it was kind of like this cumulative, things were speeding up and getting a lot scarier. Duncan was arguably the most powerful psychic on the premises, but for whatever reason, the people involved were starting to notice a lot of kids weren't coming back. I guess people started to grow a conscience, or perhaps they started to detach from their programming enough that they realized what was happening was really terrifying and horrific, and perhaps they might even need to do something about it. And this feeling of doom is kind of growing as the experiments are ramping up and as they're sending them to more and more intense places. God, I wish I had more time. There are crazy stories, Byron, about them visiting the future, like way, way future.
Oh, I don't know if I care about that at all.
No, but like we're talking 6037.
It's nice to know that we're still around.
Well, not really, though. According to some reports from these Montauk folks, there were 3,000 to 10,000 people sent to chunks of years between 2180 and 2280 and like left there.
Oh, like,
So we may start running into them, 58 years or so.
why were they doing that?
Something about trying to change negative trajectories of planet destruction, like climate change and stuff.
Interesting. Why would they go forward to change the future instead of changing the future from where they're at now?
I also think that has to do with quantum mechanics.
You know how they're always like, would you kill baby Hitler? It's always like the hypothetical. You could easily, if you knew that Hitler was going to be born in the future, you could stop that from the present.
Right?
So why would you go into the future to stop the future?
Here would be my theory.
Uh-huh.
If I were writing a movie about this, I would say, well, it's the evil government at the helm here,
Yeah.
right? And
They have resources. They
if
got
they
boys.
change certain things in the past, it's going to alter some of the things
In the present.
that they want to remain the same.
Yeah.
Whereas if they go and do the actions in the future, it's not going to fuck with the homeostasis of whatever weird new world order exists
I guess
now.
you can kind of like do whatever you want.
You can. I don't know.
Interesting. If you can travel forward in time, you can almost paint the future to be whatever you want it
Well,
to
it
be.
depends on whether you subscribe to the many worlds theory
Oh.
or to the block time theory.
That's true.
Right? Because if you subscribe to the block time theory, no matter what you do, you've only got a finite amount of variables to work with, and it's
Yeah.
all going to remain the same
Well,
anyway.
you're split in dimensions anyway.
That's the block time theory.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that essentially time is just a construct, is the way that we perceive the world, but it isn't a factual static thing.
Way to snooze this episode, Kelly. Give me something fun.
I'm so sorry. Okay, here we go.
What's the chair look like? Wood?
I'm going to wrap it around to something that I think you really do like. So, Byron, can you tell me the coolest thing about the Denver airport?
That's Lucifer?
Lucifer.
Everyone coming into the airport has to pass by this. A demonic blue horse with glowing fiery eyes. Is it a curse? Who knows?
Actually, it's a Mustang.
Byron, I think we've done a little episode on Lucifer before, but could you give our good listeners just a quick...
I mean, it feels a little hack to go back and talk about the Denver airport like we did in episode 162.
Yep,
But
I know. I believe in you, though.
Lucifer is a blue Mustang statue at the entrance of the Denver International Airport. A fiberglass sculpture with red glowing eyes.
Yep. Furthest point that they supposedly traveled to, at least the furthest point that Preston mentions in his first book. Things get a little bit crazier later when he was trying to, whatever.
He called it straight up gobbledygook.
He did call it gobbledygook. You're right. 6037. It was the furthest point they could get to. And when they sent people there, there was no sign of life. There was a single city that was always, for some reason, the location that the kids landed at.
Okay.
In the center of this city was a square with a giant horse statue on a pedestal.
So this is their Planet of the Apes moment?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much, Kelly, for that report.
No!
What?
No!
It's interesting that the Blue Mustang, Blucifer, survived the apocalypse.
So here's what I want to know. I want to know if the sculptor who made Blucifer knew this story and was inspired by it to make Blucifer. That's what I really want to know. Apparently there was an inscription on the pedestal, and the recruits that were sent there were supposed to come back and say what the inscription said. Apparently, according to Duncan, there was technology in the pedestal, and they were trying to get somebody to sense or feel what that technology was. Also, another person said it was just like a training exercise to test the powers of observation.
Sure. Well, remember, the sculptor did get killed by
it.
Yeah, it's not it.
Is that true?
A different sculpture fell onto him and severed his leg, and he bled
it wasn't
to death.
that one?
I don't believe so.
Oh, well, that's stupid then.
One of the sculptures, 3 sections. No, it was a Blucifer. Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
So they're messing around with time travel in a very scary way. It's not stabilized. They're losing kids. And in fact, they're losing kids at such a rate that they're using programmed kids to go out and get other kids and like bring them back to the base.
Okay, I'd like to... What's your gauge on them using the excuse of we're just time forwarding these boys as opposed to actually killing them and disposing of their bodies?
I don't want to give away Captain's conclusions yet, but
we'll talk about that next week.
According to Duncan, one of the big problems with this time tunnel that they were traveling through, which I presume is at least somewhat similar to the time tunnel he dove through twice to get to the 80s. About 2/3 of the way through the tunnel, a person's energy leaves their body. They feel a thump and then sense a higher intelligence and have a complete out-of-body experience. The term for this was called a full out. Duncan was very good at doing it. They couldn't get everybody to do it, but there were a lot of casualties in trying to get kids to do it. The tunnel that they were going through was like a corkscrew. The problem was if there was any kind of a power issue while the tunnel was open, you get lost wherever you are, either in the tunnel, if you're like in the process of traveling, or you get stuck wherever you are. And this just kept happening. And again, because they were considering these kids disposable, they just went out and dug up more. This went on and on and on and on and on. Okay. On August 5th in 1983, the high-ups were given the order by the highest up that they were going to turn on the transmitter and run it nonstop. Okay? Trying to get as much in and out of this time travel as possible. They followed the orders, and at first everything was okay, but then on August 12th, everything completely fell apart.
And that's where we'll pick up next time?
Yeah.
All right. Kelly, thank you so much for that report. Next week, big one. We're finally closing the book.
It's the end. It's the end. Yeah,
Montauk's done.
Next week, we talk about the events of August 12th, 1983. Talk about what happened after. I give you my honest opinion on whether there's any actual evidence to believe what we've talked about for the last 3 years.
3 months.
3 months,
Yeah.
right. I'm also going to do a guided meditation.
No.
Yep.
I don't think we are.
I am.
I actually don't think that we're doing that.
I am. Yeah. And then, of course, you'll get Captain's conclusions.
Captain's conclusions.
Yeah, you need
an alliteration.
No, you need like a sound thing for that.
I'm not going to play any music for that. No.
No, I've been thinking about what it could be. Captain's conclusions. Like what about like the Law and Order sound?
What if like a dropping of an anchor?
I mean, that's good too. I was really kind of attracted to the Law and Order.
That's already taken.
Dun, dun.
It doesn't belong to you?
I mean, I think it does.
No, it doesn't. But thank you so much for that report.
Could you do that with an anchor noise? Like do a dun dun.
I can make it hit the water twice.
An anchor, like same rhythm.
Splash, splash.
Okay, I need the rhythm.
I'm a professional.
And then can you do like the cool guitar?
No. No.
Could you please?
That's a piano.
No, that is a guitar. That is like...
It's a keyboard and then the guitar goes... No, that's enough. Oh, okay. Kelly, that's plenty. Until then, though, Kelly, where are you going to be? Are you mourning?
I am.
You're in mourning.
I'm just looking around at like my note cards and my string board and my
Did
books.
you find those note cards? You found them. Oh, I thought you lost all of your work.
No, I got about halfway through redoing them before I found them.
Oh, where were they? Did your children hide it? They said, Mommy won't stop drinking wine and writing note cards.
They were in my purse.
They were in your purse. Okay. Well, I did tell you to check your purse.
No, you told me to just check my
bag,
bags.
which is...
And I was checking because I had brought my
All right.
backpack with me.
Where are
and
you?
also my bag.
Next
at Kelly
week?
Frightday on Twitter, Kelly at Frightday.com. Send me your true tales of terror.
Yeah, we got to be doing one of those pretty soon
So
here.
soon.
We got some unwinding to do, so before we
Some
wind right
unwinding
back. Shut
to do.
Listen, shut up. And I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram. Byron at Frightday.com is my email address. And until next Friday, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
You always say it too quiet. The music is swelling at this point. No. You don't understand. The music is like ramping up at the end of the episode. You go, quiet. Like, do you want to hear it?
Is my attempt at ASMR.
Yeah, but fucking do it louder.
I'm Kelly.
Get out of the chair.
Stay.
You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy, theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.